Sunday, April 7th, talking about the last week of training. So I didn't mean for this week to be a pivot, but it ended up being that way. Tuesday started off just fine. Everything was hit the way it was supposed to be. I took a 10% back off on my bench. Some shoulder pains that I was having, that has since gone away, so that's great. Everything else was on par. Wednesday through yesterday, I was doing a landscaping project in my backyard, redoing the whole thing, stripping up the land that was there, tilling it, new sod, mulch, drainage. So what resulted from that is that I was able to do my training Thursday and not really have any problems. Wednesday wasn't a whole lot of stress in the yard, and neither was Thursday to an extent. So I was still able to do training on Thursday and get everything in place, even though I was tired and had been working the last 2 days. Friday was not a whole lot of work, but still work in the yard. And then yesterday was the killer. Yesterday was putting the sod in. The sod that I got delivered was wet, thick, and heavy. I've worked with sod before when I was a much smaller, weaker person, and it felt lighter then than it did this time. I want to say that those rolls of sod were each somewhere between 60 and 70 pounds. They're pretty heavy. They're really wet, which is great because the sod's going to take really well, but it was a pain. And I didn't really have a great technique for doing it either, so I expended a lot more energy than I should have putting that in. Either way, it's Sunday morning. I woke up sore as all can be. I feel like I've just deadlift and squatted PR the day before, so I'm not going to add in more training to that. That's just going to be considered what I did for the end of the week training wise. It was a great workout. It was just a different end of spectrum, but that's good. And I'll have another video as well about the landscaping, so I don't want to talk too much about that. As far as how this week was more of a pivot though, the change in workload certainly affected things, but also it was a pretty funny pivot week. There's a reason why I like training with Eric and John. They're hilarious, and the shenanigans that happen are out of control. So we had some pretty funny moments that I tried to highlight and point out. As far as the plan for this coming week goes, I'm going to treat this past week as if I had planned it to be a pivot, and then this coming week will be kind of a repeat of the beginning of this week, except I'm going to re-add the correct benching intensity. I don't need to back off from that, so I'll keep going forward that way, and that should be all that needs to happen.